And I'm just going to say it again and again until it happens. I'm going to keep saying it. We've got to figure this out. Let's not waste an opportunity. We have great employees here, and we want to give them more. And we want to have them be competitive with the private sector. But when we have more employees than any other county that is larger or our same size, we've got to figure out that piece. And like I said, the opportunity is there. If 25% of our workforce is slated to retire, now of course they won't all retire, we've got to use that opportunity. And I urge you all, let's put our heads together and figure it out. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
I've got a couple questions, but while I remember, before I forget, I'll ask the public. Would anyone from the public like to come forward and comment on the budget documents you were just presented? This is your opportunity to tell us any thoughts you have. Okay, I'll give you one more chance after I ask a couple of questions, and then we'll move forward. So you talked about the temporary mill levy reduction. Could you just reemphasize that again? So we're lowering the mill levy by approximately through 3.66 mils, by approximately 3.66 mils. Now, there's different ways that, because of the Tabor restrictions, we're limited how much we can collect and how much we can spend. We could have collected all those funds and sent a check to the individual taxpayers. Is that correct? And do you have a guesstimate, just something around numbers, of what that cost would be if we were to go through that process?
Well, Commissioner, of course, there are different valuation bases for determining what those mills equate to. For instance, a mill in the general fund is a different value of the mill in the other funds. But generally speaking, a mill in the general fund is about $8.8 million, and a mill in other funds would be about $9.3 million.
The question really was more about the administrative cost. If we were to write checks and send everyone a check if we had collected the full authorized mill levy, and then we exceeded the Tabor, we would have had to send a check back. And it's just, you don't have to come up with it. The reason I'm making the point is it would have been expensive.
It would have been expensive, and it would depend on how that refund was distributed, to how many checks would actually be written.
And one of the reasons why I'm making that point is I think a lot of individual taxpayers aren't really, they see the value of their home going up, and they see that, they're concerned about the amount of tax they're paying, which I get. I'm one of them. But if we send a check, it's a tangible thing they see. When we lower the mill levy, they don't always understand that we've been, we didn't collect the full amount authorized, that even though your property value went up, the payment to this county was restricted by the Tabor limitations. So we have been lowering the mill levy to keep the tax bill at a lower than what the property value increase was. There are other jurisdictions that that the property tax is exempt, and they have gone up. So even though your individual property tax bill went up, not all of it went to Jefferson County. So that's just a point I want to make. And it does create some challenges for us from a budget standpoint. I think we've seen a lot of increase in growth in the county and challenges related to infrastructure. And the Tabor has a growth factor built into it, but I'm not sure the growth factors that were identified in Tabor totally identify the cost of this growth to the county. And so it's been a challenge to keep up with our needs, and that's why we're dipping into our savings account this year. So even though we have a time of property values increasing, we're dipping into our cash reserves because a lot of the costs related to providing services have gone up faster than the Tabor allowance has for that. One other thing I want to talk about is you talk about non-property tax revenue from the state. That counts against our Tabor limit. Correct. So just to provide a quick illustration there, if we get money from the state to provide human services, and it's funding directly from the state, that goes against our Tabor limit. And so we can't we're limited. And so those funds, it just increases the amount of the mill levy reduction, and it kind of makes budget decisions for us. It prioritizes outside of this board's authority. So we've actually told some different groups to not look at state grants because we have other priorities we need to take care of, and we reduce our general fund because of the Tighe restrictions. So, I mean, I understand the purpose of wanting to make sure that government has guardrails and that the growth is limited, but sometimes when you set up a uniform, generic process, there are unintended consequences, and we're seeing those today, I think.
Yes, that's correct. That was one of the measures that we put in place this year, was to really monitor the revenue streams that we're getting in so that we can be cognizant of the effect on the total budget. Right,
because if we accept state funds and we have to increase our mill levy reduction, that's kind of making a budgetary prioritization for us. We have to make sure that's where we want to have the priorities in our limited budget. Having said all that, under those challenging circumstances, we've been working on this budget for almost a year, and I appreciate the hard work. Mr. Davis isn't here; he's at a veterans event. Yeah, he's at a veterans event. So, and which we told him, we told him to go to the veterans event because he's a veteran and we want to recognize. But he's been working on this; he knows it. So, I want to thank Kate. Tell Don thanks for the hard work, and thank you guys all for the hard work. I appreciate all that you've done. Anything else?
Yeah, I would just like to follow up with that. You are right. Property taxes have gone up exponentially. I was telling somebody the other day, I've lived in my home 28 years and I wouldn't buy it for what it's worth at this point. But you know what? That's a blessing. If I did want to sell it, that it has gone up. But what Tabor has done in that is it's allowed the government, which you guys are the government, we the people, it's by you, to grow. I think this year, right, 3.9%, our budget grew. Is that about what it was from our last presentation? That's what rattles around in here. And so, when the price of your home goes up 26%, I get all these phone calls. But truly, when we reduce the mill levy, it goes up 3.9%. That's what your taxes go up, because that's what we're allowed to grow and we're allowed to receive. And if we didn't have that restriction, you would not get a check, but you wouldn't get a mill levy reduction either. And so we really have to be careful in figuring out who are we serving and how do we serve them best. And so, I know a lot of families, even though, everything looks good with the numbers, who are still struggling a little bit. And they don't get to get more funds in the bank. They just get to go to work the next day and work hard and get their paycheck and hopefully get a raise. And so as a governmental entity, we really need to be careful that we don't burden those folks anymore and the folks in our county. I think that's really important. You know what? We all have budgets. We all live, even though some of us sit up here and some of us do some other jobs around the county or outside the county. We all have budget constraints and we all have to live within them. And I think when we can figure those things out, it makes better leaders out of us, and it also makes a better county. So I think we have to take that pencil and really look at it, get a magnifying glass and really look at what are our core functions and what does Jefferson County government really need to do to work for the people. So thanks.
Okay, anything else? All right. I'll give one more chance for anyone else to make a public comment. And then one other thing I want to bring up as we move forward with our different resolutions. Could you please explain the Law Enforcement Authority just for the folks that are here? Do you want me to do that? You want to do that? Just talk what it is.
The Law Enforcement Authority is a fund that is established by state statute to help support public safety in the counties.
Okay, so we sit as both the Board of County Commissioners, and then you're going to see as we move forward with our agenda through the magic of administrative procedures, we will become the Law Enforcement Authority, and we will adopt a mill levy and a budget for that as well to provide additional patrol services for parts of the county. All right. So if there are no more discussions, could I have a resolution for item number 12?
You bet. I move that we adopt Resolution CC 18-355, the 2019 Jefferson County Government Budget.
Second.
Commissioner Zabo?
Yes.
Commissioner Francone?
Yes.
Commissioner Tighe?
Yes.
And so do we have to move into the law
Now
enforcement
let's move 13
authority?
first. Excuse me,
Oh, we
13
do
first.
13.